But our next speaker is Ryan. Thank you.
All right, so I just wanted to touch base on Agenda 21 first and foremost because it happens to be the most immediate threat to my future. When I was growing up back in the 80s, I saw my parents, they owned a home, they had a garden, they had the ability to take care of themselves. And so that has always been part of my dream, to be able to sustain myself, to be able to problem solve on my own, and to be able to ask for help if I need it. I don't recall asking government that I needed help to move into some purple dot on the Victoria OCP, which is essentially a concentration camp. But in the meantime, it's set up in such a way that people invite themselves to move into one. These people, they want us to look at these trendy new micro-lofts that are 350 square feet in size, and they want us to pay $850 a month for these things and like it. I don't want to live in one of those things, okay? I don't want a landlord who will go into my space, my private domain, and tell me how to live. These units are also going to come configured with smart meters. Now, there's a lot of people out there who have issues with smart meters because they are designed to interface with the electrical appliances inside your house. So let's say you get a smart fridge and you go and buy some milk from the store. You'll take your milk, you'll pull it out of the bag, you'll stick it in your fridge, and it'll say, I now have milk. Pretty cool, huh? Well, it's not cool at all when this fridge is collecting information about what you're eating, when you're using what, and it's relaying it through these central boxes that are just information gathering boxes called your smart meter. You have no choice whether these go into your homes or not. They're supposed to be mandatory. And as a concerned citizen, I have to tell you that I'm not going to be living in any of these boxes that contains this smart metering monitoring device. Now, when it comes to Agenda 21 being rolled out in your town, hate to break it to you guys, but it's already here. It's called Sustainable Development. It's located on 629 Pandora Ave, right here in town. That office was opened September 2009. And since that time, they've been working tirelessly to try and market this program out to you by holding an inside job revolution. Basically, the methodology that they're employing is to take a cookie-cutter plan that was devised by the United Nations. Now, a little information about the United Nations is, I didn't elect those people, you didn't elect those people, they were appointed. They were appointed by our already corrupt governments. And here's the thing, when you're looking at the revolution and you're wondering why it's not succeeding as it should, maybe it's because these people are being instantly divisive the moment that you get out there. If you have a look at the Victoria News article that was recently published with regards to this event and the event on the 22nd regarding Enbridge, you'll see that they're claiming that Occupy is a left-only movement, which it's not. The revolution is for all of us. When these people are out there preaching Unitarianism, how can you do that when you're instantly telling the people who are on the right end of the spectrum, or instantly pushing people who disagree with you to the right and saying that this is a left-only movement? Now, with regards to evidence that Agenda 21 is here, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the Victoria OCP website. That's shapeyourfuturevictoria.ca. And here they're trying to make it sound like you're empowered to shaping your future. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're not. Now, if you go onto that website and you look for the Heritage PDF that they've published, on page 6, you can read all about how sustainable development equals Agenda 21. Sustainable development is just a brand marketing word to make you feel good about the slavery that they're unfolding upon your doorstep. Now, with regards to GMOs, we've watched our corrupt government rubber stamp a Monsanto study that lasted a whole of 90 days on lab rats and say that GMOs are okay. Yep, GMOs are okay. Well, we find out later on from French studies and from many other studies that GMOs are actually terrible terrible for your health. The experiment that occurred in France resulted in the lab mice after the 90-day period in a 6-fold increase in morbidity, tumors the size of their arms and legs, kidney failure, liver failure, renal cancer. These side effects are definitely not good, and they're side effects that we are all going to experience. When you go to the grocery store and you're looking at the organic section and you think, oh yeah, it's organic, it's good. Wrong. 20 to 30% of your organic food is GMO. Now, what Monsanto is doing in a laboratory is actually not as complicated as they make it sound. They take gold nanoparticles, they attach fragments of DNA, and they use a gun to blast it into a petri dish full of target material. Eventually, some of the target material absorbs the DNA snippets that are attached to the gold nanomolecules, and this creates cells that are hybridized. These hybridized cells are isolated and cultured and cloned in a petri dish and then eventually turned into a plant that's sold to you as, for example, Bt toxin-inducing genetic modified plants or Roundup-ready genetic modified plants. Now, there are some recent studies, and we will be publishing all of this material, all of our reference material, up on the We Are Change website. And I'd just like to cite a couple. Okay, one of the studies that we've been looking at discusses about how aggressive the genes are with Monsanto GMO. The genes do not stay within the species that they're targeted at. They jump species barriers. A good example of such is the GM canola that exhibits Bt gene that has jumped to other plants surrounding the fields. Okay. These genes are actually behaving quite similarly to a virus. They're designed to get out into the environment and become impossible to control or contain. Further to that, we've seen a study recently released on Phys.org that explains how easy it is for genes to jump from one species to the next. Ever see one of those trees that grows right through a fence and you can see the bits of fence growing through it? Well, guess what? Trees and plants do that to each other all the time, and when they do, they're exchanging genes. The study that we have states that the chloroplasts from one plant exhibit the genetic code of the chloroplast of another plant when they are growing together. So that deals with the aggressive and viral-like nature of these GMOs. We've seen corn, heritage corn varieties being infiltrated by GMO genes in Mexico, and there's virtually no heritage corn varieties left anymore in Mexico. We've also seen Bt gene and Bt toxin specifically transfer into the bloodstream of people who consume it and into umbilical cords. So when you are pregnant and you're having a baby, your baby's eating this genetically modified material as well. Genetically modified plants are much more complicated than just DNA. We know that microRNA is used as a messenger molecule and as a regulator to do so much more, to decode the DNA and to determine the function of the cells. So, with that in mind, the microRNA, when you're eating it from these genetic monsters, it can actually interfere with your regular DNA processes that are taking place in your own body. So that's definitely not good. Now, the complexity of the problem is such. The simplistic view that Monsanto has taken is not enough to determine whether it's safe for us to take this step or not. Humanity is approaching a technological singularity, and we need to be damn careful that we're not overstepping our bounds. And by overstepping our bounds, I'm specifically referring to the modeling that our scientific community has relied upon to insist that these genetic monsters are safe. The reliability of the modeling that we're using is that it is incomplete. Currently, it takes a supercomputer to determine the protein folding and expression of proteins to develop prions, and how that takes place, how it folds, how it misfolds. It takes a supercomputer to do that. It takes a supercomputer to figure out the transcription process from DNA to RNA. Now, if it takes a supercomputer to do that, then what about all of the processes combined? What about all of the interconnected intricacies in between them? And what about all of the ways that it can fail? We have so many different stacked systems that are jammed into one that these people are playing God with, and it is of my opinion that until they can present an interconnected system that displays predictable results and has the computational capacity to do such, then and only then can we take the next step and say that genetic modification is safe to release in the environment. So when you examine these systems, you can see that we start with DNA. DNA is transcribed. There's a transcription system. From transcription, we go to microRNA. From microRNA, we go into protein synthesis in the ribosomes. From protein synthesis, we go into protein folding and prions. For example, a prion is small enough that it can be transmitted through vaccines and through medications. It is barely detectable when misfolds occur, okay? Randomly you get misfolds that can induce disease and failure inside of your body. And if you want a good example of what a misfolded protein that acts like a virus looks like, do a bit of research on mad cows. Now, from protein misfolding, we can even go even further, and we can say that even smaller than that are microRNA snippets of code. And as a whole picture, as a whole complete picture, we cannot actually understand what is going on without taking our recent discoveries in quantum computers to actually apply the required amount of computational capacity to solve the problem.